Hey, what's up, YouTube? Red and Bordy here. Today, we are going to talk about the Life Staff in New World, all the new abilities. This weapon has had a complete rework since the special event that they put on for the preview event. Obviously, pretty infamous weapon. Everybody was using it for one ability, and that was the mobility spell. But they have since done a complete rework of healing and the weapon. So it's going to be fun to break this down tonight. Real quick, guys, if you haven't checked out New World Fans already, go check that out. We have all the weapon trees, skill trees, and abilities over there underneath our database tab. If you just go over there and then you can select the Life Staff, you can follow along with us and just look at any weapons in general. We have them all up there, so thanks to taking on that. Anything else, Bordy, before we get started?
That's it, man. Let's jump in here.
All right, dude. So first and foremost, we have your Divine Embrace. Now, Divine Embrace heals target for 150% of weapon damage. This is just your basically run-of-the-mill heal. It is important, Bordy, to notice that they have instituted a new type of targeting for healing in the game.
Yeah. I think you have to hold down control, and then is it control? I think the passion is to hold down control, and then it's a self heal, and then you use a scroll wheel to heal between people in your party. I believe is how it works. So I would imagine you'd press the button and then either press control to heal yourself, or scroll through to your party members to heal them. And I think this appears to be just a single target heal, Divine's Embrace, and he just heals one target. It says or heal target for 150% weapon damage. So it seems pretty self-explanatory there.
Yes, and you are correct on that. I think it should be reassignable too. So if you prefer tab or something like that, you should be able to make that work as well. So the upgrades to Divine Embrace are as followed. You have Privilege, which reduces the cost of Divine Embrace. You have Shared Struggle. If a target is below 50% health, heal one additional ally with 8 meters for the same amount, which is good. A little bit of a chain heal there. And then here's Rebound. If second target is below 50%, heal another ally. So as fully upgraded, this is basically a chain heal, which, would be really good in a group setting.
Yeah, I like that. I think with the addition of dungeons and the more focus on PvE content, it's good to have a chain heal like this. I think it's pretty good. And this is something we didn't see in the preview event. From my recollection, there wasn't any kind of chain heal in there. I think there was the bubble and then maybe a single target heal, but nothing like this. So I like it, man. Good addition to the game.
Yes, sir. And I would say overall healing definitely feels a lot better now. And the Life Staff is more structured for your expeditions and group settings for sure. The next ability in the healing tree would be Sacred Ground. Creates an area on the ground that lasts 12 seconds and heals 10% of weapon damage every second. And the upgrades to that is you regenerate stamina and mana at 100% faster while in the Sacred Ground. And while allies are in Sacred Ground, they are healed for 30% more from all healing sources. So this is a nice little group buff here that can help maintain damage, sustain mana, and his stamina, as well as you want your group member, especially your tank, to be standing in this area because it's going to increase your healing by a pretty significant amount.
Yeah, I like the changes on this because before you would just cast this basically, and then people would run in, get their healing, and then run out, and the healing just continued to go whether or not you were in the bubble. So it's like you casted it, people ran in, ran out, and they got the heal anyway, and it just kept regenerating them. Doesn't seem like that's the case now, and then it also gives you a reason to be inside of the bubble. You want to be in the bubble so you can get that increased stamina, mana regeneration, as well as the increased heal as you're in there. So good changes, man, for sure.
Yes, I definitely like the direction they've taken the healing staff. We're going to see the last spell here is Splash of Light. You and all group members are healed for 50% of weapon damage. So this is like a nice little AoE targeted heal. If you are healed target below 50% health, gain 3% of your max mana. And Purify, which is Splash of Light, also removes all debuffs. So here you got a little bit of a Purify or a Cleanse, as well as a nice little group heal.
Which is nice because I would assume that's a cleanse among all group members, because you and all group members are healed for 50% of weapon damage. So I would assume that the Purify also applies to all group members, which is a pretty big deal, man. That's a pretty powerful spell.
Yeah, this will be obviously an ability that your healer's going to want to keep on his active bar for sure. A lot of debuffs in the game, especially the blighted debuff from the from the Angry Earth mobs that I remember. That was pretty brutal. So having a cleanse for that is going to be pretty important, especially I think the Garden of Genesis is your Angry Earth dungeon, or excuse me, Angry Earth expedition. So you'll definitely want to have that slotted for that. So let's move on to the Protector skill tree. Bordy, these are abilities that are pretty unique. They are meant to be support abilities. So you know, you kind of have your healer and support kind of structured around the life staff right now. It's important to note that the life staff now scales off of focus as well, and they have put gems in the game that will allow you to transition other weapons to focus, or to scale off of focus, at least by a percentage now. So we kind of mentioned this on I think the New World to Go as well, that we thought they were probably going to head in this direction and allow gems to kind of manipulate the different stats that your weapons would scale off of. So now it kind of answers our question, is what are healers going to have on their back bar, because we know they're done putting weapons in the game before launch. Basically, you can put any weapon on your back bar, because now you can put a gem on there that will help that scale as focus as well.
Yeah, which is pretty important, because there are no damage spells left on the life staff, as we'll see as we go through the protector tree. Before there aren't anymore. But after the restructure of the life staff, it's either healing or support, one of the two, or a combination of the two,
attacks.
I guess.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So that'll be good. You know, it'll allow people to maybe build a cleric, maybe put that warhammer and put the focus gem in there. You know, kind of be a tanky, heavy armor healer, because we. You do take that 20% hit if you're not wearing light, but I mean, for some survivability and potentially, different buffs to your debuffs, which I don't know, with the Warhammer, I guess you're going to be doing stuns and stuff. That could be a cool build. You could also just, stay in the intellect vein and potentially use like a or a fire staff and just keep that on your back bar as well. I think Ice Staff also, or Ice Gauntlet also prevents a pretty cool, interesting back bar now with the Focus Gem, because it'll allow you to set down turrets and stuff to help support your DPS.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting builds that could come of this for sure. This is the only healing game only healing weapon in the game as of right now. So it'll also be interesting to see what they do going forward when they add more healing stuff to the game, which I would assume they will at some point. But right now, this will be it for launch, man.
Yes. So let's hop into the Protector tree real quick. So the first ability in the Protector tree is Orb of Protection. Shoot out a light projectile that grants 15% fortify for 20 seconds. Heals an ally for 10% of weapon damage and deals 95% of weapon damage when it hits an enemy. So here is an attack ability. This is a pretty versatile spell here with Orb of Protection.
Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty weak, because it's less than your light attack, but it also gives you a little bit of a nice buff to your ally whenever you hit them. So whenever you use this thing, you're not really going to use it for damage, right? It does 95% of your weapon damage, so why wouldn't you just light attack? And then so you're really going to be using this to try to hit an ally so they can gain fortify with it.
Yeah, and I think this would deal damage while the projectile is on the enemy, so potentially this could deal some sort of damage over time. Weapon, it says when it hits, but I wonder if it can hit a target more than once. So that'll be interesting to see. These upgrades for Orb of Protection is if Orb of Protection hits an ally, they gain 10% in power, which would be 10% increase in damage. If you successfully hit an ally, you also gain fortify, which is neat.
That's nice. Yeah.
It kind of goes back to that cleric build that can be pretty cool with heavy armor, and those fortify buffs start to stack up when you're wearing heavy armor. That's for sure. And then Aegis, I always mess up this word. I have no freaking idea exactly how it's said. But Aegis, I guess. And when this projectile,
I think that's right.
When this projectile hits, it affects all allies within 3 meters. So that's a pretty neat little buffer upgrade to Orb of Protection as well.
Yeah, pretty nice right there.
So moving on, this is the second ability in the Protector tree, is Light's Embrace. Targeted heal for 75% of weapon damage, plus 30% more of each buff on that target. So if your allies are putting buffs on themselves, or if you find a way to put a buff on your allies, they're going to get more healing from Light's Embrace. It's pretty. We'll see some synergy later on in the tree for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this could ultimately end up being a pretty potent heal.
Yes, and when you couple that with Orb of Protection, which applies Fortify and potentially Empower to the target as they go by, you can get some pretty beefy heals here from Light's Embrace. My gosh. Okay, so the upgrades here are Inspire. When you heal a target with Light's Embrace, target receives 25% stamina. And Connection. When you heal a target with Light's Embrace, gain 1% of your max mana for each buff your target has. So, that could be a pretty decent return on investment there if you have a couple of debuffs or a couple buffs on your allies as well.
Yeah, not bad so far.
So here is the last tree is Beacon. Shout out a light projectile that deals 95% of weapon damage to enemies attached to its target and heals all nearby allies by 20% weapon damage each second for 10 seconds. Now, this is a really potent ability, Bordy. One that also can affect the group.
Yeah, I like this one. This is pretty interesting. I know a lot of people like the Siphon ability in the preview event or before, and now this is kind of transitioned into Beacon. So it still is a light projectile, but now it deals damage to enemies as well as heals the allies that's around you. I think it's cool, man. I like this ability. It's a little bit different than what we've seen so far in the tree, and I like it.
Yeah, the upgrades make it even more interesting. Beacon area of effect is now 50% larger. Radiance Beacon lasts 5% longer. And then Speed of Light. When Beacon heals a target, it also applies 20% haste for 3 seconds. Now, this, of course, synergizes again with Light's Embrace. That's the third buff that you see in this tree already just from the active abilities alone.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So the way they've synergized a lot of these healing abilities does work out pretty well, man. One thing I don't see on here is Resurrection. I haven't seen that as an ability at all. Do you think that should be a New World?
I think you can already most MMOs don't have a downed state. I think Guild Wars 2 is the only one that I played recently that actually has a state where you can kind of get someone up from a revive. Get someone off the floor. I don't know, man. I don't think so. I think it's fine not to have it so far, in the game right now, just because you have camps and down states, and now we have all these locations on the map that you can respawn at. So we'll see. And then if you go into the expedition line, of course, you also have some respawn points in there as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I was just wondering what your take on that was. And I wholeheartedly agree with the downed mechanic. And whenever you have that in a game, I don't think it's necessary to have Resurrection in the game. But just curious on what you thought about that, because it is in a lot of MMOs that is a part of the healer tree or the healer's role. And then that's not here in New World. So just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, and I think, everybody can res technically as long as they're not completely killed. So yeah, right. I tend to think that I think we're okay right now, but in the future, maybe we'll see if they have to mosey down that line. So I think these are kind of cool to go over, Bordy, while we're still covering the life staff or the key passives, which are at the end of each tree. So let's go back over to the healing. The healing key passive is the Divine Blessing. When you heal an ally, if their health is below 50%, heal for 30% more. Pretty decent buff to healing right there.
Yeah, that seems pretty strong, man. It's pretty straightforward, and it seems to be if you're gonna be a straight healer, you're gonna want to take Divine's Blessing. I would think that seems to be a no-brainer to me. If you want potent heals, you're gonna want to scale all the way down or spec all the way into Divine Blessing.
Yes, for sure. It becomes interesting because some of these situational buffs make sure your allies have to get pretty low health. Below 50 is a place that you typically. Especially, you don't want to let your tank get there just in case there's some sort of big damage mechanic. But, it happens sometimes. So Divine Blessing will definitely help bail you out of that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So the key passive, for Protector is Magnify. When you heal with Light's Embrace, extend life staff buffs by 2 seconds. Now, this is pretty cool, man, considering you're also going to be providing these armor buffs, your Empower buff and your haste buff. You might be able to keep those up by using light embrace on cooldown, since the cooldown's about 4 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but whenever you start kind of calculating that up with all of your other cooldowns, you're right. I think it is possible, or going to be close to possible, to having these buffs up almost 100% of the time, which does make Magnify a pretty strong passive as well. So if you're going for more of the support role in terms of buffing your allies, then you would want to spec down to Magnify. And maybe you want to go a little bit of both. Maybe you want to do some healing plus some buffing, and then you kind of work those in together. Just have it one strong heal, and then try to play the support role with buffing your character, and then are buffing other characters, and then roll down here to Magnify and pick that up as well. It's going to be some interesting builds here for a healer for sure.
So it's important to note that your Orb of Protection applies those Empower and Fortify buffs for 20 seconds. So technically, every time you heal with Light's Embrace, you'll be adding 2 seconds on at the end of that. And it's important to note that there are other ways to reduce your cooldowns of your abilities as well. So, especially, and we'll see later on that, there might be some synergy here with other weapons that maybe just allow you to keep these buffs throughout the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Which would be really strong, no doubt.
Overall, I think they made some good changes to healing, especially the life staff. It no longer has that movement ability that we all remember from the event. So that's obviously a huge positive. And the rework to healing is going to make a big difference in how the life staff feels, because you truly are having to target and heal people and keep people up, which I think there are a lot of people in MMOs that enjoy that role. So I'm glad that New World's going to be able to fulfill that for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So far with the healing staff, it seems like it's pretty spot on. I don't see anything in here that seems to be like glaringly a problem with what they've done with the healing staff. I think it's really good. I think the heals are fine. I think the more support role with the buffs is fine. And then maybe speccing in a combination of two. It seems good, man. I mean, it just seems like a standard healing spec, a healing class, if you will. New World doesn't have classes, but you get the drift. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. I think the healing looks good so far.
Yes, guys, that does it for the life staff. Let us know what weapon you want to see us cover next. We're starting to run out of them, so the choices are being more and more limited every time we make one of those videos. But we definitely want to knock all these out, because we plan on having little introduction guides, beginner guides for these weapons upon launch, or at least closed beta. So we'll be tagging these videos in those guides as well, and you guys can kind of look over the information that we presented in these videos, plus more. We're adding some strategy and everything to the weapon guides as well. So we look forward to showing you guys that. We thank you guys for watching, for hitting the subscription button, the notification bell. If you want to see more New World content like this, we put videos out every day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. And thank you to all our patrons. Again, you'll see your names at the end of the video, but we're just very grateful to even have people supporting us, and you guys have topped us well over 800 now. We're at 850. It'll be cool, Bordy, to look back in a year, kind of look at these videos and us keeping track of the sub count in verbal form, so we know where we're at. And dude, it's crazy how fast it's going up.
It is, man. It's been fun so far, and there's no end in sight. We're gonna keep pumping these things out
for sure. We're excited about launch. We hope you guys are too. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.